Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another COTC video. In today's video, I wanted to cover who I am currently saving for from each job from the 2.1 update and on. Now, this is considering that any of the characters that I'm going to be showcasing are not released before 2.1, as we know Global's release schedule can be chaotic at times, so I wouldn't be surprised for a couple here in particular to be released before 2.1 comes. So if you're interested in seeing who I personally am saving for and am excited for, then keep on watching and let's get into it. Alright, so first up is Warriors, and of course it is best boy Rondo, who is the light element. Now, for these overviews I'm going to do for characters are not going to go over into their kits. When the characters are announced to be released is when I will do my usual overview and guides for them, but just some highlights for Rondo. All of his attacks are light infused, which means he's going to be able to hit for sword and light weaknesses. Most of his attacks are multi-hit, so he's a really great shield breaker. He has a strong ultimate attack that restores his BP. It's up to 3 BP per turn, so he's always going to be sitting at 5 BP. I think it's for 3 or 4 turns, depending on if it's level 10. And again, overall best boy, amazing voice actor. I've been really excited for Rondo since he came into the story. I think he has a great sprite. Again, his voice actor is awesome. He really stands out to me in JP, and I still have him on my team. So I just, yeah, really excited for Rondo. And for merchants, it is Leon. Leon doesn't have any elemental attacks, but he does have dual spear and staff attacks. They're all default to spear, but they hit for staff weaknesses as well. He grants himself dual cast. He has his attacks, certain attacks of his grant him a buff that allows him 1 turn of dual cast. And his really strong attacks can inflict debuffs for attack and elemental attack, defense and element defense. He also can inflict spear and staff resistance down, and one of his passives is that the entire front row will have an element defense buff. Now, for merchants, it is very tricky for me in this game because I truly believe that Leon is the only good one. Now, people may come for me for saying that, I'm not sure, but I really don't know of a better merchant than Leon. Now, every character in this game is situational, so in terms of damage for merchants, if you're hitting a weakness to spear or staff, Leon is definitely the best. But as we know, a lot of merchants are tanks in this game, and Leon is not a tank. So very situational, but I think in terms of damage, Leon is the best. He has a great sprite. He's from OT1, the OG, and so overall, a very fantastic character. And now for thieves, it is Bargello from the Bestower of Wealth storyline. He has the wind element, and he's got some really great attack and element attack, dagger, and wind buffs. He has a defense, elemental defense, and dagger resistant debuffs. He has wind infused dagger attacks, and one of his skills is a really powerful nuke ability. So basically how it works is it has the possibility of reaching up to 225 potency per hit. But the downside is it takes 100 SP from every single party member to power up this attack. It is well worth it, especially if you're in that high damage phase when you're taking down a boss. So there is a trade-off for that, but overall, very fantastic character. He can debuff and buff wind infused attacks. I feel like wind, there's not, in my opinion, I don't think there's a lot of great wind characters in this game until much in the future for us when Bargello and a couple other characters come out. So overall, very excited for this one, and I think a great addition to the team. And for Scholar, a very, very new character to JP, I think released maybe a month ago or a little over a month ago, is, I believe it's pronounced Detrania. So you may recognize her, but she is a dual dark and light element, and she can debuff the resistance to both. She is a character that has guaranteed critical element attacks, and she's a really, really solid AoE nuker. She has the buff that she grants herself, a dark buff and a light buff. And what happens is when you have the dark buff up, one of her skills can be an AoE nuker 6 hits at a really high potency. So her kit is a little complex, and I don't have it spelt out here, but in the future, when you need a dark and light elements scholar, she will definitely be the go-to. And then I won't go into this in too much detail, but she has a TP skill that makes it so that you don't have to do a ramp up for her to do the most damage. She'll be able to dish out that really high damage right at the start of battles. But basically all this to say is that I think when she comes around is a must pull on the element attack side for light and dark, because there's definitely plenty of other physical attackers who can fill that role for your team. But very excited for this one. I do have her on my JP roster as well. She hasn't left since she started. I think light weaknesses is a very common weakness in COTC, so she has a lot of use and a lot of utility. And since she can debuff those resistances, characters like Elrica and Rondo and so many other characters that have light and dark attacks just powers them up even more, so a great scholar to have. And for Cleric, a lot of you who are familiar with characters coming up are probably not surprised with this, but Rinyu, she has dual staff and bow attacks. Now, are you bringing her for damage? Absolutely not, but she can hit those if you need it. She can grant party members auto revive. And where she really stands out and shines, and the main reason why everyone is so excited for her and why she's on literally every team, is she has skills that grant continuous buffs and regens while in the front or back row. And those regens are from her passives, which include HP and SP regens, so she can always keep you topped up, in addition with your apothecaries and other characters having those regens on. Those buffs can be attack buffs, they can be defense buffs, they can be immunity buffs, all kinds of different buffs, and she has 2 skills that offer that channeling aspect to her. So she is a popular character in the game from a story perspective, but when she comes out, she will easily replace any other clerics that you have on your team, just because her passives and those continuous buff skills that she has will be able to top up your characters and provide buffs. And you really, in my opinion, you just don't really need any other clerics besides that. She is somebody who has not been power crept yet, so we'll see what happens here in the future now that we have 3.0 and we're moving on into much more difficult territory with the way that the side Silesia content works in terms of gear. So again, this is like 100% a must pull, and really great cleric to have on the team. And for Apothecary, it is EX Primrose. So for those of you who don't know, there are a handful of characters in this game who have EX versions of themselves. It's a different job. So like for Primrose, for instance, you would not be able to have EX Primrose in the same party as default Dancer Primrose. You can only have one or the other. So her EX job is Apothecary. She has the lightning element, and she is the buff and debuff master. So she has an AoE lightning attack that does defense and magic defense down. She has an AoE attack, element attack, and Isuna buff. She can hop in the front and do a heal, which is going to provide defensive buffs. And where she really shines and where she saves my life every single new boss that I come across is at max boost. She has a skill that is AoE front and back row, HP regen, a speed buff, and she fills up everybody's special gauge by 20%. Since I've had her, I don't have Rinyu in my JP account, but I do have Primrose, and when I start battles against bosses or arena or whatever challenging content I'm doing, I immediately just max boost the skill to do the HP regen for everybody and the speed buff and the 20% special gauge increase, and then I can pop that debuffs of the defense and magic defense, and then she can go right in the back row and I can continue with my fight. And that AoE buff can last for 5 turns, so she will most likely have all of her BP back to bring her back into the front row, cast that again, and then go right back. So the Apothecary to have on your team. She will power creep every other Apothecary in the game, so rip Theo, Alphen has he's a different kind of Apothecary, but in terms of just like having a go-to regen, it will be Primrose. She will always keep your health topped off, and she will have amazing buffs and debuffs to provide too. Alright, and for Dancer, another EX character, which is Fior. No elemental attacks, but why for her? The ultimate tank in this game. She can cover party members, and when she's covering party members, she takes 0 damage. So not a tank that you have to worry about with dying. She's an excellent choice for challenges like Arena and the Veteran and Towers and EX fights and all the Nemesis stuff coming up because of the fact that she can take, 0 damage. Now, I do not have Fior in my JP account, so some of this information that I'm giving, I don't know exactly all the intricacies of how her skills work and how she functions, but just from what I've researched and what I've seen in videos is that that's how she works with her skills, is in her passives, all of it together, just being able to cover physical and magic attacks, and that is per her the skill that she uses in her buff. For the turn, she can either take 0 damage and cover physical or elemental attacks, and not both from my understanding. And this was really tough to choose between EX Hanet. EX Hanet is a debuff master. She has AoE debuffs. She has one debuff that targets everything: attack, elemental attack, defense, magic defense, speed, all of it. That, a single attack that she has, which can lower all of those stats against everybody on the field. So I picked EX Fior though because in the challenging content, we all find ourselves dying a lot and wiping. So if Fior can be that remedy for that, then I do think that she can be, for me, the one that I would be more excited for, because characters like Leon and characters like EX Primrose can still provide those debuffs for everybody that Hanet would do, whereas I don't think there is a character that does what EX Fior does. And for Hunter, okay, I'll be honest, I felt like I had to pick someone because Zant is unmatched, and him, for me, is going to be my go-to Hunter forever. But EX Loomis, with the lightning element, why? Her attacks are infused with lightning. She can lower bow and lightning resistance. All of her attacks are multi-hit, so she's a very good shield breaker if an enemy is weak to bow and lightning. And she has a passive that grants HP regen and crit buffs, so she's not bad by any means. But I think she's just very niche, so if you're somebody who rolls on every single character and maybe you're a bit of a whale, then she will be able to provide a lot for your team if you're going against an enemy that has both lightning and bow attacks. But if you are free to play, or if you're a light spender, I don't think this is somebody who's worth it, and I would just go for Zanta and build him instead. But yeah, I feel bad. I felt like I had to pick somebody, but I think if I were to go after a Hunter, then it would be EX Loomis. And Hermione is on the list too, but I personally am not going to pull for her or anything like that, or build her. If I pull her, I'll build her. But I do think EX Loomis, for me personally, is somebody I would rather go for. All right, so who are you saving for if you have a sense of the timeline that's coming up? I'm really excited to. I've always said it, but 2.0 is what has me more energized to do content for this game because it's more exciting. There's a lot of things like the board games coming and Nemesis coming, more towers, and just a lot more challenges than I think 1.0 offered. So, and the characters have a lot of really unique kits, and I don't think that there's a lot of reusable characters that are coming. There's still some. A lot of like the general pool just isn't like the best in my opinion. As you can see with all of these characters are EX or the Sacred Blaze or memory travelers, and it is that for a reason. It is because, in my opinion, they're just better. But at the same time too, these are all characters that I really like. I would say probably the only meta character on here that I would be going for is Fior. The rest of them though are characters that I really like. Loomis is probably somebody who I'm not like super into as well, but the other 6 are definitely characters that I really enjoy and have been enjoying in the game so far. So I am very excited about the 8 that I have selected. I will just say a very special shout out to EX Hanet, who I think again is broken and is a character that everybody should go for, but I think Fior will just provide more, will solve a lot of gaps that I'm missing in terms of having a tank. So yeah, again, really excited about this, really excited about everything to come, excited to go along this 2.0 and on journey with everybody. I really, really genuinely do want to hear everybody's thoughts on who you are saving for. It's always interesting hearing, seeing people's different perspectives and what they're excited for, what works for them, and kind of their drive for going after certain characters. So definitely comment down below. Really excited to hear your thoughts. I have a lot of videos coming this month with the 1-year anniversary happening here soon, so stay tuned for those. Thank you again, as always. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to share this video on Reddit, Discord, or Twitter, or anything like that. And I will plan on seeing you all very soon in the next one. Peace.